Hello, everybody. My name is Jack, and welcome back to Bad Bookers Wrestling Podcast. We're coming back again with another review. I said I wasn't going to do this, but I'm going to anyway. Raw After Mania. It was quite a decent showing, to be fair. We had a lot of call-ups, and we had a few returns, a few little surprises, and one absolutely amazing segment between Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt, and Jeff Hardy. Anyway, we'll start off. I've got my little notes down here, so I'll probably be looking over it quite a lot. Stephanie McMahon opened the show because she's a McMahon. She's going to. Says some heelish stuff like she does. Calls out Ronda Rousey. Says how they make a great team. They shake hands. They hug. Ronda Rousey puts on another armbar and completely destroys Stephanie McMahon. Great little way just to end the feud. Just shows that Ronda doesn't take any shit basically from Steph or anyone. I'm really looking forward to see where this takes Ronda from here. What her first proper feud will be. Maybe someone who's good on the mic. Maybe an Alexa Bliss or someone like that. But I'm not too sure. I really can't see Ronda losing a feud unless it's with Charlotte or Asuka. I don't know. If you agree with me or don't disagree with me, just leave comments down below because I'm not too sure. I would put her with Alexa Bliss just because Alexa's good on the mic. And Ronda still needs to learn and get there. She can't carry a feud over with her mic skills because she's still really green on that. I don't know. I'm going to go with Alexa Bliss. First feud for Ronda Rousey. We then had Nia Jax came out, obviously new Raw Women's Champion. She got interrupted by Alexa Bliss and Mickie James. It was a tag team match between Nia Jax and a mystery partner, Bliss and Mickie James. Nia announced that her tag team partner was Ember Moon. She has been called up from NXT. She put on a decent showing here. Ember Moon's now on the main roster, which is great. I don't mind that. She did all she could in NXT. And now that she's on Raw, that means Asuka's definitely moving to SmackDown. She's not going back on Raw because I can't see them having both of them on the same brand. Because if they do, they're going to have to feud straight away after their NXT and Royal Rumble shenanigans. But I can't wait for that feud to reignite. Ember Moon versus Asuka. It's going to be great. We then had the call-up of No Way Jose to the main roster. I don't remember him doing much in NXT. He's probably going to be another Kurt Hawkins. But yeah, he's entertaining, but he's just going to be a jobber really, isn't he? We then had Braun and Nicholas relinquish the tag team titles. So they've gone and buried the whole division, and they've relinquished the tag team title now because Nicholas has got other busy schedules to uphold, like 4th grade, apparently. So the Bar came in to speak to Kurt Angle and said, "You're going to give us back our titles?" And Kurt was like, "No, you're mad." And there's going to be a tournament where the Bar will face the winner of this little mini tournament at this greatest Royal Rumble showing. It's already been advertised that the Hardys were going to be in the final. But we had one match of it, and it was Revival beating the Club in very, well, not easy fashion, but it was kind of a straightforward match. I'm glad the Revival have got a little bit of momentum. I mean, the Revival and the Club both deserve to be tag team titles. Tag team title holders, but neither of them have got any momentum at the moment. I suspect one of them will probably get moved to SmackDown, probably the Club after that loss will probably get moved to SmackDown. Maybe they'll do something with AJ again, maybe Finn goes over, but not on the case of this next promo, which was Seth. Seth came out, it's kind of like a mini coronation, if you will. The fans were loving it. It was the loudest Burn It Down I've ever heard. And it beat Mania, probably just because of the stadium. Smaller stadium. Massive pop. And Finn came out and said, "I want to be the first person to challenge you for the title." And Seth was like, "Yeah, that's fine. I'll be happy to see Seth versus Finn again. We've seen it many, many times, but they always pull off great matches. The Miz came out and obviously said, I've got a rematch, boys. I want it at Backlash. So we should have Seth and Finn at this Greatest Royal Rumble, and then, assuming Seth wins it, Seth and Miz at Backlash. Miz then said, I want a match with me and my Miztourage versus you two. Match was about to start, and who returns but Jeff Hardy, normal Jeff Hardy, not Brother Nero. If they weren't going to bring him back as Brother Nero, there wasn't much point having Brother Nero in the Ultimate Deletion, but I'm just glad that Jeff Hardy's back. And yeah, just Jeff Hardy's back. He's not Brother Nero, he's just normal Jeff Hardy. We then had a match between Sasha Banks and Mandy Rose. Bayley accidentally hit Sasha Banks. Mandy Rose won. Bayley, Sasha Banks storyline, I'm not invested in it at all at the moment. It's crap. They're having a match next week on Raw, so one of them's definitely moving to SmackDown. Probably Sasha. And yeah. But after that, it was the main talking point after this was that Paige finally announced that she is retiring from in-ring action. It was a very emotional speech, as all retirement speeches are. The crowd are chanting, "This is your house, thank you, Paige." It was just very sad. It's very sad that we obviously knew about it for ages, since before the Royal Rumble. So it kind of lost its gloss a bit, having it announced now, but if she wanted it to be announced now, then it's her choice, isn't it? Paige, obviously being a British wrestler, Paige was one of my favourite women's wrestlers. I was surprised she was only there for 4 years, especially when, was it a year break that she had? She was first ever NXT Women's title holder. She obviously came in on the main roster and beat AJ Lee on her first night. Was it her first night? I think it was. To win the Divas title. She's a great wrestler and she will be sorely missed. Especially now that they're making that film about her, which they are now advertising. We then had Elias come out. He pulled off one of his concerts. The fans were loving it. Even when Elias was slating them, calling them scumbags, the fans would chant, "We are scumbags," back at him. I love Elias. He should probably turn face, but it's kind of funny when he calls people scumbags and the crowd just completely dismiss it. But then we had the return of Bobbington Lashley, who obviously was part of the WWE roster 2007, was it? This is a while ago. He's been in TNA since. Yeah, Bobby Lashley's back. There was rumours, there still is rumours that he's going to face Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. I'm glad that he's not going straight into that little feud. I want him to kind of prove himself on the mid-card. I'm not too excited about Bobby Lashley. Loads of people seem to be. Prove himself on the mid-card, and then if you think he's good enough for the main roster, go do it. We then had Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn turn up on Raw, which I wasn't expecting for another good few weeks. But there were some comments made about obviously Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens' situation on SmackDown, and Kurt Angle said, "Well, I don't have space for a tag team, but I hear TNA are recruiting." I'm pretty sure it's the first time TNA's ever been mentioned on a WWE television. TNA can't recover now. They just can't. See you later. TNA Impact, whatever they're called now. I don't know who's left on TNA's roster, to be fair. I haven't watched TNA in ages. I assume there's still some decent talent on there. I know their women's roster's semi-decent, not as good as WWE's, but they've got some, well, they used to have some good women on their roster anyway. We then had Heath and Rhino in the ring. And then they called out, a bit like what New Day did last year, they called out anyone in the back because they weren't part of this tag team tournament thing. And the AOP have been called up to the main roster, which was obvious. They've done what they've done on the NXT roster, so now they got the chance on the main roster, but they are ditching Paul Ellering, which, to be fair, Paul Ellering's not the youngest of men anymore, so I probably suspect they've done that because he doesn't want to travel around, which is fair enough. We'll probably see him back in NXT with War Machine, or War Raiders, as they're now called, apparently. Don't like that name at all. If he wants to stay in NXT, they'll probably put them with War Machine. We then had Roman come out talking about the whole Brock Lesnar situation. Brock Lesnar, once again, wasn't on Raw, and I don't understand why people want Brock Lesnar as champion more than they want Roman as champion. I don't understand it at all. If we're going to have this Bobby Lashley, Brock Lesnar feud SummerSlam, means Brock Lesnar's keeping it until SummerSlam. It should have been more. I would have been so much more happy if Roman had won it at Mania than Brock. But oh well. What can be done? But Roman got interrupted by the returning Samoa Joe. I did call that it would be Roman versus Samoa after Mania, but I thought it would be for the title. But we're going to have that because at the Greatest Royal Rumble, it's Roman versus Brock in a cage match, and Samoa Joe's part. Oh yeah, Samoa Joe. It's a ladder match. I forgot. A ladder match for the Intercontinental title between Finn, Miz, Joe, and Seth. So you would have thought Seth would win that to go into Backlash with the title. But yeah, Joe's back, and he looks like he's feuding with Roman after this Greatest Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia. We then had the next part of this tag team tournament, Bray Wyatt and Matt Hardy beating Titus Worldwide. So they go on to face the Revival next week, and then the winner of that pairing goes to face The Bar. We know it's Bray versus Matt because they've already announced it's the Hardys. So obviously Bray's now Matt's little companion. So yeah, they're winning that. We then had the match between Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, because Kurt did mention that there's only one spot left on the singles card, and they need to fight it out to see who gets it. This match ended in a what they're called. You know when they're both down on a canvas and the referee counts to 10. They both didn't get up in time, so both got counted out, if you will. And at the moment, it looks like neither is coming up to Raw. Obviously, they both will come up to Raw at some point. But it was a fantastic match, which it always is between Kevin and Sami. They just have so much chemistry together. And the one thing I did like was they always kept on saying, like, this is for our jobs. This is why I'm doing this. This is why I'm hurting you, because I need this more than you. Which I thought was great. We then had segment between Matt Hardy, Bray Wyatt and Jeff Hardy. I'm so glad they didn't ignore this like what WWE usually do. I'm glad that they had this segment. I would love for this segment to be like every few weeks, just remind us that Brother Nero's a thing. He could still join them. But it was Jeff Hardy, Seth and Finn walking down to the ring, and Jeff stopped and Broken Matt was there. They had a little talk and they introduced Bray Wyatt into it, and he was like, Brother Nero, and they exchanged a hug. Bray Wyatt then said he felt wonderful, which was great. And then Matt and Bray walked off, the camera turned around, and Finn and Seth were just standing there with the most bemused faces. Finn said, what was that all about, to Jeff? And Jeff was just like, and walked off. It's like if you were spoken to Broken Matt and Jeff was you, if you know what Broken Matt's all about, and then Seth and Finn were two people who have no clue what is going on in wrestling. That segment just played that perfectly. Because there's no point explaining to people who don't know what the Broken Universe is if they don't understand it. Just walk off. That's amazing. We then had Seth, Finn and Jeff versus The Miz and The Miz Taraj. They beat The Miz and The Miz Taraj, and then they all hit their finishers. I don't know if they hit all their finishers on Miz, but each one of them all hit their finishers on Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas. So maybe one of them or two of them is going to SmackDown. I'm not too sure. I don't really want them to break up The Miz Taraj. I think this is the best work Bo Dallas has done since NXT. Not that he's been given much of a chance, to be fair. And Curtis Axel, his career, both of their careers have been revitalised, and they haven't wrestled, but they've done some great work with The Miz since they've gone to him. So I don't know. I'm just fearing that if one of them gets moved over to SmackDown, they're both going to get lost in the pack. And we'll probably not see them again. But yeah, that was Raw. We had the call-ups of Ember Moon and AOP and No Way Jose. We had the injury returns of Samoa Joe and Jeff Hardy. And we had the return of Bobby Lashley after many years of being on TNA. Decent showing, if I'm honest. The crowd were as raucous as they all are on a Raw After Mania, and there was no beach ball in sight, which was great. But anyway, it's SmackDown Live tonight, the last little bit of wrestling for this weekend. You could probably tell by my voice I'm shattered, my face is probably look like I'm shattered, and I wasn't in New Orleans. I can't imagine how exhausted the people are if they've done all 4 nights, including Access, including the indie shows, including I think the Ring of Honor Supercard was on at the same time as NXT TakeOver, so I think you had to choose between one or the other. There's so much wrestling on this weekend, I can't wait until it's over. I'm going to have a wee sleep for the rest of the week. But anyway, I have been Jack. Go check out our Twitter on @BadBookersWP if you're not following over there. Obviously you'll notice that this week's podcast hasn't been uploaded onto YouTube. We have one. It's out on iTunes, SoundCloud and Zcast, but Chris, our editor, had a load of problems when he was trying to put it on YouTube, so it hasn't got out on YouTube. I can't remember if I said this on one of my live streams, probably on the drunken one. I am so sorry about that. I'm tempted to delete it, but I'm just going to put it out there to show why I should never do a drunken live stream ever again. But yeah, go on to iTunes. It's probably the best place to go find it. iTunes, just search Bad Bookers Wrestling Podcast. Give it a 5-star. And yeah, I'm glad this whole 4-day weekend's nearly over. Also, Superstar Shake-Up next week. Who do you think is moving across? We're going to put our views out on the podcast probably at some point. But yeah, Superstar Shake-Up is next week. So leave a comment down below or tweet us who you think is moving across brands. But anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you and goodbye.